It's time for our international press review now in the papers. Chris Moore is the man in charge. Chris, tell us where you'd like to start.
Well, Mark, as you'd expect, the headlines around the world very much dominated by the Olympic situation. Today, the lighting of the torch yesterday and the ignition of the debate about China, Tibet and human rights. Here in France, Libération, the centre-left daily, leads off with that. China holds the flame, but the fire still rages. This is a theme taken up around the world, really. There's a great cartoon in the Algerian paper Liberté. There you can see a picture of a Chinese official as Tibet burns in the background, and he's saying we're testing the Olympic flame. Quite a scathing view, really, there of the reaction of world leaders in terms of a lot of words spoken about this, but not much action as yet. The Soir d'Algérie, another Algerian paper, they have a cartoon of a monk with a Molotov cocktail chasing an athlete with the flame around the world. The message there really is as the flame makes its way around the world, the protests are unlikely to subside. Independent, the English paper, missing monks who defied Beijing, are typically campaigning, front cover from the Independent there. They carry photos of 15 monks, some of them as young as teenagers, who've been missing since March the 10th when they paraded Tibetan flags around the Tibetan capital Lhasa. And the Independent there joining Amnesty International's campaign for them to be released. One thing we should say as well is I've been having a look at the French regional press this morning, and this is really gathering ahead of steam across France in the wake of a survey yesterday saying that a majority of French people are in favour of some kind of gesture from Nicolas Sarkozy, perhaps not turning up to the opening ceremony of the Olympics. And the French regional press really criticising Sarkozy for just calling for restraint from China. They say that's not enough.
Okay, he's now offered to us act as go-between between China and the Dalai Lama, and of course the French swimmer Alain Bernard sort of saying, let's boycott the opening ceremony.
It's really gathering ahead of steam.
It is really going to continue. What's next, Chris?
Well, let's go to Algeria. We've been looking at the Algerian press a bit. Now, this really fits into a debate which kicked off a while back. You may remember a Danish cartoonist got into trouble for drawing pictures of the Prophet Muhammad, and that sparked a fairly vehement reaction in various parts of the world, not least in Algeria. Now, in Algeria, a conference was yesterday opened by President Abdelaziz Bouteflika. The organisers of this conference say they're seeking to, as they put it, rehabilitate the Prophet Muhammad. And the context in Algeria is that this comes at a time when American evangelical Christians are having more and more success converting Algerians, and the government's cracking down on these evangelicals. And Liberté, the Algerian paper, says in its editorial that really the Algerian people couldn't care less about all of this in a time of rising costs and rising poverty, and that the government should really get its head down and work on tackling that rather than persecuting evangelicals.
Okay, next topic, I think very controversial and one that I'm pretty scared to offer an opinion on. Tell us more.
Absolutely, yes. A raging debate in the British press. Are French women sexier than their British counterparts? Or more specifically, are French female ministers sexier than their British counterparts? Zoe Williams in The Guardian, she takes up this theme now. She's been really quite massively irked by an article in rival paper The Daily Mail. They've renamed Downing Street, the seat of the British government, Dowdy Street. Dowdy Street. Fairly unflattering there about some of the female ministers in Britain. And they say the benchmark is really ministers here in France, female ministers here in France, complimenting Valérie Pécresse, the higher education minister, on her sartorial elegance, and Ramayad, the human rights minister, on her glamour, saying that their British counterparts really don't measure up here. And Zoe Williams that says, even as a sort of left-leaning writer, all this has left her wondering, where have all the ugly women in French public life gone? Is the French system, she wonders, endemically sexist? And did France ever have anything as vulgar as a sexual revolution?
Okay, the less I say about that, probably the better. Chris, thank you very much. We'll have to leave it there. You're watching France 24. Give us your opinions by email. We'd love to hear them. Stay with us.
Hello and welcome to Top Story.
Live from Paris, Robert Parsons analyzes the day's top news stories with the help of a guest and reporters from around the world. Top Story, Monday to Friday, 8:20 a.m. Paris time on France 24.
Business is brought to you by Dexia, the public finance bank.